I just want to note that this is the first in a series of 4 forums that we are sponsoring this fall. We have this one tonight, and then we have one Thursday, September 21 at Dulles South Senior Center, similar time frame. That we have another one Thursday, October 19th at the Douglas Community Center. And the last one will be at the Ashburn Library, Thursday, November 2nd. So we're mixing things up. We're not having, all the candidates at each one. There'll be a mixture of people participating, and we would just love for you to follow us along on this adventure of this November election.
Thank you, Priscilla. Just a couple house rules. Outside the doors to my right, your left, are the men's and women's bathrooms. We've asked everyone to put their questions on a card and pass them down to the left, and somebody will pick them up from you. If the candidates can come and have a seat, please. And make a decision on who you want to vote for. So these forms are really for you guys, so the candidates get informed and get active. Again, like Priscilla said, there will be 3 more coming up that will give you an opportunity to listen to your candidates. So tonight our moderator will be Priscilla Godfrey. She is the past president of the League of Women Voters. She was on the Blue Ridge District School Board. She's a master quilter. She's a certified quilt judge. She was on NBC News yesterday for her quilting. She's a leader in Western Loudoun County. She's married to Dennis. She has 3 children and 6 grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Priscilla Godfrey.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank each and every one of you who is making time for this important evening. And I also want to thank the candidates. You all decided that it was important for you to run for office, and that is a huge step in the right direction. Having been a candidate 3 times, I've been in your shoes, so I know how hard it is. So we're going to start this evening with a 3-minute intro by each candidate in turn. We'll go from left to right. And I would like to know why you decided to run for the office that you're running for. Okay, so let's start on the left.
Pull up the microphone or do it from there?
Oh yeah, you use mine, yeah.
Okay.
And I'll read the time.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Chris Harnisch, and I'm running for the Virginia House of Delegates in District 27, which is up here in the Sterling area and extends as far south as South Riding. Let me begin by thanking the League of Women Voters and the NAACP for convening this forum and for all the tremendous work that both organizations have done now for over 100 years. We as a nation still have lots of work to do, including in our community, and I look forward to playing a role in achieving that continued progress. On a personal note, I'll just say it's really an honor for me to be included in an event co-hosted by the NAACP, an institution I have long admired. I'm also honored to have the backing and support of former Clinton administration official Thurgood Marshall Jr., the son of the legendary NAACP lawyer Thurgood Marshall. He's part of a broad bipartisan coalition that I'm putting together to help me deliver solutions for the people of Eastern Loudoun. In my career as an Army officer and counterterrorism official, one of the things that I am most proud of is the work I spearheaded at the State Department combating racially and ethnically motivated terrorism around the world, including at the State Department where we designated a white supremacist group as terrorists for the first time in U.S. history. In my race for the House of Delegates, I'm running on 3 primary issues: educational excellence, cost of living, and public safety. And there are 3 sub-issues I'd like to talk about very briefly here. First, with regards to educational excellence, it's imperative that we eliminate the disparity between schools in the eastern part of the county and the rest of the county. When I speak to teachers and administrators of local schools, they tell me that their facilities are run down, their furniture and equipment are outdated, and they struggle with recruitment and retention of teachers. One local teacher told me that at her Title I school, it took 2 years to get dilapidated water fountains replaced. When I get to Richmond, I'll fight for a distinct funding stream for Title I schools that will include money for capital improvements and incentive pay for teachers. The second topic that I want to discuss is at the intersection of education and cost of living. Over the past decade, the cost of going to college in Virginia has far outpaced the rate of inflation. 10 years ago, it cost about $19,000 to go to an in-state school like Virginia Tech. Today, it costs $37,000. In 2013 dollars, it should cost about $25,000 today. The cost of in-state tuition is putting college out of reach for so many people and is saddling others with mounds of student debt, which will limit their upward mobility for years, and it's affecting middle and low income families the most. That's why I'm proposing an in-state college and community college tuition freeze. The final topic that I want to discuss very briefly is affordable housing. Housing is very expensive here, regardless of whether you own or rent. What is particularly heartbreaking is when public servants like teachers and first responders are not able to live in the communities that they serve. When I get to Richmond, I'll seek to significantly expand first-time homebuyer programs in the state to unlock upper mobility for all. Thank you very much.
Good evening. It's very hard to follow Chris Harnisch. He's the speaker. You might need to move the mic a little closer. You got it? Yeah. So many of you already know, my name is Debbie Rose, and I used to be on the Loudoun County School Board for 2 terms, took the last term off, decided to jump back in and bring the skills and experience that I gained during that time to run for the Board of Supervisors for the Algonquian District. It's very simple what I'm running for. I'm running to refocus the position and the person in that job on the basics, focusing on the issues that a Board of Supervisors should be focused on: land use, taxes, roads and construction, smart development, traffic, and funding our services, law enforcement, making sure our communities are safe, our services, and funding our schools. Big supporter of our public education system, obviously. Spent 8 years supporting that. I want to make sure that we get our county out of the news for all the wrong reasons. We've been in the news for we've traveled around, and everywhere we go, we hear someone say, "Oh, you're from Loudoun County." Like, maybe for that to stop. I want us to get out of the news for the wrong reasons and get us back in the news for all the right reasons, all the good things that we do here well. And I look forward to working with everyone. I am a big proponent of hearing from all stakeholders, collaboration, and coming together to find common sense solutions for everyone. And that's the platform. It's pretty simple. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Viktoria Hunyadi, and I'm a candidate here in the Algonquian District for the Loudoun County School Board. Thank you so much for inviting me and having us all candidate to introduce ourselves and just share with you why we're running for office. It is a great forum for you to get to know us, ask questions, and be better informed when you go vote in the fall. So why did I decide to run for school board? It is because I'm a concerned mom and a concerned substitute teacher previously. I would like to restore excellence in our education. And working in the hospitality industry, especially high-end hotels, I learned what it means to provide excellent service. And why not provide excellent service to our children, who are our most important assets in our lives? So to sum up the 5-star service in education in 5 key values that I will work towards as your elected officials are: number 1, we must help our students succeed academically by restoring rigorous learning and fair accountability in grading based on merit. Number 2, we must keep our students safe by employing security resource officers at every school, and we must protect girls' privacy in the bathroom and also prevent vaping and drug use. Number 3, we must invest in our teachers by implementing effective student disciplinary measurements with accountability for misbehavior to help teachers with classroom management. We must also provide them enough time for lesson planning and give them the necessary tools and supply. Number 4, we must rebuild trust with our parents through transparent communication and collaborations with teachers and school board members to make sure children receive a superior education and parents remain the decision makers in regards to their children's well-being. And number 5, last but not least, we must find ways to provide nutritious, healthy school meals for our students, as it has direct effect on their academic performance, their health, their behavior, physical, emotional, and mental well-being. So I look forward to this challenge to restoring excellence in our schools in partnership with our community. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'd like to start off by saying thank you to our hosts for giving us the opportunity to come together and have this conversation. I'm so excited to see so many friendly faces tonight, and to all of you who haven't had the chance to meet yet, I'm looking forward to getting to know you. My name is April Chandler, and I'm also a candidate for school board in the Algonquian District. I have been an engaged parent, a volunteer, an educator, and an advocate for just about 20 years. And we've lived in Algonquian District for 16 years. I have had the opportunity to work with so many of our community members and neighbors, and I've had the opportunity to learn what it means to serve the Algonquian District. I'd like to bring us back together and focus on common ground and pragmatic solutions that serve the children in our public schools. I'm running because I recognize the impact that public schools had on my life. My grandparents were raised by sharecroppers in Georgia, and their public school education allowed them to become a pastor and a postmaster. My father is a public school teacher, and my mom is a nurse. And I personally love my public school experience. I moved from a town in Kentucky that's smaller than Potomac Falls High School. And when we moved to South Carolina, I was assigned to a school in a historically Black community. And having that opportunity really opened up my eyes and my heart and opened up the world to me. And I'm so grateful for having had that experience. When Paul and I decided to have children, we looked around in this region for schools that were excellent and for a community that was diverse, because we wanted our children to grow up as citizens of the world, and they have. In our Algonquian District schools, they have always had friends and classmates who are from all over the country and all over the nation. Their education experience has been all the richer because of that. I am running because I am so passionate about public schools, and I think they need to be protected. I would start with focusing on students. I believe that all of our decisions should be student-centered. We need to focus on making sure that all of our students are safe, seen, and respected in our public schools. As an educator, I know that the teachers are the very foundation of our public schools. We need to make sure that their salary and their working conditions are great, because that's our students' learning conditions. And finally, I just think it's very important that we come back together and focus on what's good for all of our students.
Hi, my name is Amudhanar. I came here myself. I don't know if you guys hear me, but I'm running for the Office of the Commissioner of Revenue in Loudoun County for the second time, and I've had a lot of learning in the last 4 years. So first of all, let me thank the hosts. I also want to say special thanks to the church, the Lutheran Church, because they allowed us to come in here at a very late time. And it's a special place for me because I was married in the Lutheran Church in Washington, D.C., so it's like I came home. My story is interesting. I'll talk to you guys about that afterwards. So let me point out, the Loudoun County budget is $4.2 billion annually at this time. And 45 of the money comes from data centers, personal property tax, real estate tax, and all that. And our budget continues to grow. But the data centers will not grow at that rate. That means the difference between what the data centers bring you and the budget as it grows will continue to change. And we are going to have to pay the difference on an ongoing basis. Our budget back in '92 was like $260 million, $230 million, with 4.2. It's going to keep going up, and we have to be able to fix that. 89% of these assessments come from personal property and real estate taxes, and 11% comes from economic activity. If we can increase the economic activity in Loudoun County that contributes to the budget, then it is possible for us to offset that change and continue to flatten the amount of money that we're going to continue to spend. When you got interest going up, you have real estate going up, it's going to be stressful in the incoming years no matter what happens. More money is going to come out, and they're going to look at real estate property, to take money, and that comes from your property, right? That's your piggy bank. It's going to come from there. I think that elected officers have a responsibility beyond doing what's given as a task for them in the Constitution. What's written in the Constitution for elected officers to do is the minimum they're supposed to do. It's not the maximum. They have to go beyond the rules because elected officers are the leaders. They're elected to do something. They're not hired. When people are hired, when they go beyond their roles, they can be fired. But when people are elected, they are elected to shape the system that we work in, and that is very important. Our school budget is about 60% of the $4.2 billion. We spend $3 billion every year, and when the kids get up and they go away, we lose all that money. We need to keep the kids over here. We need to build the community, because only when the kids come back, you build the community, and communities make values, and community values become laws. It's not the other way around. We need kids to stay here.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Wertz. I'm the Commissioner of Revenue here in Loudoun County. I want to thank the League of Women Voters and the NAACP Loudoun chapter for allowing me to be here tonight. You notice I didn't have a name tag on the table because they weren't expecting me to be here, but I heard they were having a get together, so I figured I'd show up since voters were going to be here. As Commissioner of the Revenue, I often tell people that I serve you every year whether you want it or not. I'm here to ask you to hire me for 4 more years. You heard my opponent speak just before me. Unfortunately, I'm not sure he understands exactly what the job of Commissioner of the Revenue is. As a constitutional officer, your duties are mandated by local ordinance and the Code of Virginia. And you can play a role in shaping the character of the county by participating in economic development efforts where businesses are contemplating relocating to the county. As I have during my career in the 90s, I was a member of the economic development team that was recognized by Site Selection magazine as the economic development team of the year. When Telos was contemplating locating here, I'm the one who visited them in Herndon. When Raytheon was considering consolidating operations here in Loudoun County with hundreds of thousands of square feet of commercial space, I was part of the economic development team in Loudoun County that was recognized by the Board of Supervisors when they finally made that decision to locate here. So, tell you a little bit about the job. I can't do it alone. I lead a professional staff of 90, and I administer an office budget of $11 million. I'm responsible for the top 3 locally administered taxes here in the county. So we assess real estate, your vehicles, business taxes. So if you own a car, if you own real estate, if you have a business in the county, you touch folks in my office usually on an annual basis, and about the quality of service that's provided by my office. So to get to the heart of the matter, why am I running? I'm running for the same reason that I ran the first time. It's because that's how you get the job. The Commissioner of Revenue is, it's a complicated position. You are responsible for $2 billion in revenue that the county allocates to pay for the services that are provided here. We interact with some of the biggest businesses in the world on a daily basis, so it's important that you know how to do the job. I learned about the job because I worked in the office for 11 years before I ran the first time. The reason I'm running for the job is because I've got the experience and the knowledge, and most people here in the county know about the quality of the service that they get from my office on a daily basis. And I hope that you will support me for another 4 years. Thank you.
In my dreams, I'm tall. And I appreciate the comments that we just made, and basically talking about understanding the jobs. I'll tell you this. I understand the job of the conference attorneys because of this reason. The first thing that you do, your job role is to show up. I show up on a regular basis, not only in the office, where I have a chair, an office, a computer, and people work with, but I show up in the community each and every day because I serve our community. Back in 2017, I remember picking up the local paper and seeing an article in there where there was a case that came out from our circuit courts where this man stole tires in Ashburn from 6 cars. He stole 24 tires to be able to support a drug addiction that he had. The prosecutor's office charged him with 18 felonies, brought the case before a jury, and the jury found him guilty of the 18 felonies because he committed those offenses. The Commonwealth then argued as to what should happen, and what they did is they brought back his history and talked about he has a history of convictions for drugs, theft, drugs, theft, drugs, theft. You hear the repeated pattern? Drugs, theft. And told the jury that if you don't do something to stop this, he will never stop. The jury came back and recommended 127 years for somebody who stole tires. These are some things you'll find out about me. I'm a huge Costco fan. The most expensive tires at Costco are maybe $600, $700, $800. So we're talking about somebody who has stole maybe about maybe about $4,000 or $5,000 worth of goods. And he was being sentenced or recommended to be sentenced for 127 years. The judge didn't sentence him to 127 years, nor did the judge sentence him to the the sentencing guideline recommendation of 2 to 3 years, but gave him 17 years to serve. I've been a lawyer for 30 years. We've had murderers not get 16, 17 years because of the facts. And when I looked at that, I said is from a judicious aspect, that is not the best outcome for my community because of this reason. The cheapest place that you send somebody to incarcerate them or imprison them is the Department of Corrections at $25,000 a year. Unlike what lawyers say, I am a math major. I do know math. 17 times 25,000 is $425,000 in taxpayer money that was going to put somebody in a cage for something that was not necessarily going to change what happened. And when that person returns 17 years, he's coming back to our community. I took this job because I didn't need a job. I took this job to do the job. So that is the thing that I say to you is that we will continue to be able to provide for our community the following: smart on crime decisions, not just doing the job to get the statistics or the outcomes that might sound good, but it is to do the job that best serves our community. I'm Buta Biberaj, and I'm asking for you to support me as being your next Commonwealth attorney. Thank you.
Follow.
Can you give me some money?
Oh, there we go. All right, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
You can do a little bit better than that. Line it up a little bit. Good evening, everybody. There we go. My name is Koran Saines, current Sterling District Supervisor. Currently serving my second term, running for a third term in office. What we've done so far, just quickly give you the hit list. We renovated the Sterling Community Center, renovated and got a new rescue station. We just implemented street lights on Sterling Boulevard. We have got funding for the bridge over at Sterling Boulevard and the WMD Trail that we've talked about for decades here in Sterling. The reason why I decided to run again is to continue on that path of rebuilding and making Sterling better in Loudoun County. Just this past year, finally, LCPS voted to not just renovate, but rebuild Parkview, and thank you to the Parkview region. So even though that's going to fall on LCPS for the most part, I pledge to work with the LCPS and their stakeholders to make sure this project for Parkview is completed as timely as possible, because we know this is long overdue. Another thing that I pride myself on and will continue to do is constituent services by helping residents with the various needs and their issues throughout the county, throughout the community and the county, and making sure we plug them in with the right stakeholders, be it General Assembly members, congressional members, and other organizations to help them in their daily lives and their families. Another thing we're going to pledge to do and continue to do is work to get funding for our schools from Richmond. Just recently, there was a study that was done that was sponsored by the folks down in Richmond that said we are falling short compared to our neighbors in North Carolina, Maryland, DC, and West Virginia. Now, I like West Virginia, they're wild and wonderful. But when we're falling behind West Virginia on our funding, there's a problem. So I pledge to continue to work with our Richmond delegation and other folks down in other areas of Richmond to make sure we redo the funding for our schools, because that's very important. We can't do it alone. We have to have partners down there to do it. I'll continue to work on attainable housing here in Loudoun to make sure everybody has a chance at home ownership and can live decently in the area that they love and work in. Because it's hard to work in this area but then have to commute miles to get here every single day. And also make sure that the infrastructure is in place for any new housing that is built. Also, I'll continue to work to diversify our local economy. This is a great place. We just heard about some of the great businesses that come and will continue to attract new and exciting businesses into our area. And also, lastly, we'll make sure to hold our data centers their feet to the fire and make sure our data centers are better looking, more environmental friendly, and in the right locations. That's what I'll continue to do for my third term. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to thank, first of all, Community Lutheran Church for hosting us on this at the last minute. That's wonderfully generous of all of you. And a huge thank you to the League of Women Voters and the Loudoun NAACP for having this event and giving us this opportunity to speak to voters. I thank all the candidates for running, because this is incredibly difficult. And thank all of you for being here, for taking time out of your busy lives to come and talk to us and tell us what your issues and concerns are. My name is Donahue, and I'm running for Loudoun County School Board for the at-large seat. I moved to Leesburg in around 2014 with my husband, who was born and raised in this area. I'm the proud parent of 2 elementary school students in LCPS. I'm an attorney, I'm a community activist, and I am a fierce advocate for public education. I am running because I know and believe in the life-changing opportunities that an excellent education provides. And I believe every student in our county deserves and is entitled to have real access to those opportunities. I'm not from Virginia originally. I grew up in a rural, conservative, poor area in the Midwest. I went to public schools from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. and I got a great education. I earned an academic scholarship that allowed me to attend college here in Virginia. And then after that, I went on to attain my dream of going to law school, where I wanted to become a prosecutor. And I did that because I wanted to serve my government. I wanted to help improve and safeguard my community. And for me, that was the way to do it. And I did. I was a prosecutor for 6.5 years. And since moving to Loudoun in 2014, I continue to be a government attorney with a focus on public safety. I'm not a politician. I've never worked in LCPS or any other school system. I've never worked for the school board or any school board. But I care deeply about my kids and all the kids. My kids have had a lot of opportunities and support in our public schools, and I want to make sure that every child in our county gets the same access and the same support and the same opportunities as mine. My issues are school safety, number one. Every student needs to feel welcome and included in our schools, and they need to feel physically, mentally, and emotionally safe and secure. Because if our students don't feel safe, they cannot learn. And that goes for our staff too. Supporting teachers is my second priority, and my third priority is changing the conversation so we get back to focusing on the best interests of our students, and we have civil and respectful debates about the best interests of our students, listening to welcoming opinions and discussions from everyone in our community. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you tonight, and I'm going to ask for your help because all of us candidates work with a team, and we need you. So please consider donating, volunteering, and make sure you vote. I am excited to work with you this fall and represent you all next year. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Henry Eickelberg, and I'm running for Loudoun County Treasurer. I want to thank the League of Women Voters, NAACP. I think Delta Sigma Theta also had a little hand in it for tonight. I also want to thank Craig Buckley for letting me go jump in front of him. I've got another engagement I have to go to tonight. My wife and I moved just a few blocks away from here in 1997. I came out here to take a job with General Dynamics Corporation in Falls Church. I was a partner at a major Chicago law firm and actually went and worked in HR at General Dynamics. At General Dynamics, I ran their shared services organization. We processed about $11 or $12 billion a year in transactions, including payroll tax. And then if you have any contact with government accounting, you know how minute you have to do the record keeping, and we did that for all of our business units. So I worked at the mothership. I had about 120 people that reported to me that were badged to General Dynamics, and probably 500 or 600 contractors from the different organizations we hired. I did a lot of work with unions. I've represented General Dynamics with all of our labor unions. I have a very close relationship with machinists. I actually was the employer co-chair for the Machinist National Pension Plan. They've got about $12 billion that they manage retirement benefits for 100,000 members and their dependents. General Dynamics, we had about 250,000 employees and dependents that we managed. I have my law degree, I think I mentioned that, CPA. I have an advanced law degree. I've taught for 20 years at Georgetown in their advanced legal program. Matter of fact, one of my former students is here tonight. Thank her for coming out she's also now a professor with me at Georgetown. I also teach at WashU in St. Louis on an advanced tax program there as well. In 2016, President Obama asked me to take a role on the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation Advisory Committee. I served in that role under President Obama, President Trump, and President Biden. When I started, they owed $1. They had 90 cents for every dollar they owed. When I left, they had $1.20 in the bank for every dollar they owed. Their investment portfolio was about 87% fixed income, so it's very representative to what we have at Loudoun County. And I appreciate your support and look forward to continuing the conversation. And thank you again.
Hi there, good evening, everyone. So I'm Craig Buckley. We're just kind of joking about that. I'm the nice guy to let him go. I have the pleasure of being the Democratic candidate for Sheriff of Loudoun County over the past 23 and a half years. Over the past 23 and a half years, I've been blessed to live in and raise a family in Loudoun County. I settled here because I didn't have a choice. My wife was raised in Loudoun County, and she convinced me that this was the best community to raise our family. So my wife was a stay-at-home mom until the last of our 3 sons reached 4th grade, and then she chose to work for our public schools. We are a family who values public service and recognize that being a public servant is about feeling fulfilled in giving back to the country and community, not just about recognition. I began my career as a sworn law enforcement officer in August 1994, and prior to that I was working as a 911 dispatcher, same profession my wife did when we met. Through the course of my career, I've had the ability to go from being a dispatcher to becoming a police officer and rising through the ranks, holding several positions of responsibility until retiring as the chief of police. Along the way, I gained significant experience as a patrol officer, detective, crisis negotiator, first-line supervisor, and division commander. I'm a graduate of the Senior Management Institute for Policing and the FBI National Academy. Additionally, I hold degrees and certifications from the University of Richmond, George Mason University, and George Washington University. Once elected, I plan to restore public trust in our Sheriff's Office through improved transparency, accountability, and collaboration among all county and community-based agencies. I want to be clear that the accountability, that refers to me, being held accountable by you, as well as being held accountable by the women and men of our Sheriff's Office. Through transparency and the implementation of a Sheriff's Advisory Council, you will know if I'm living up to my pledge to you and to my oath of office. The women and men of the Sheriff's Office will be encouraged to engage with me through an employee relations committee, as well as one-on-one if necessary, to let me know if I'm failing them in support of their mission to serve you. I'm running to be sheriff because for me there's no greater responsibility nor honor than to serve our community. I'm a cop running to be a cop. My professional fulfillment begins and ends with being your sheriff. The most important internal step I must take once elected will be to have independent audits of our high liability, high risk operations. First and foremost, this will include SWAT operations and our K-9 program. Both of these operations have attached to them nationally recognized minimum training standards, and it is imperative that we are properly outfitting, educating, and training our deputies assigned to these vital tasks. Not doing so, it only sets them up for failure and further erodes morale in the agency and community trust, not to mention the potential for several more multi-million-dollar lawsuits. Additionally, I'll be joining the Northern Virginia Critical Incident Response Team and signing the National 30 by 30 Pledge to improve diversity among our ranks and create a work environment more conducive to working parents. This campaign for Sheriff of Loudoun County boils down to one thing. I'm committed to building trust and working collaboratively with all of our county departments and agencies. Your role is to decide who you trust to protect you, protect your constitutional rights, and be a unifier for our county, not a facilitator of division.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Sam Kroiz. I'm an independent candidate for chairman of the Board of Supervisors. And like Commissioner Wertz, I'm an uninvited guest tonight. From what I hear, the chairman kind of focus on that will be a couple sessions from now, so I'll look forward to seeing folks then and talking more then. I won't be on the panel tonight. But the league and the NAACP was kind enough to let me talk to you all tonight, so I appreciate that. And I also want to thank them for putting on this whole thing. This is really great. Love to see folks out here. Like I said, I'm running as an independent candidate, and I'm glad to hear all these folks tonight talking about finding common ground, and I'm not hearing a lot of too much partisanship, and that's great to hear. But I just wonder how they'll be able to live up to that when they are running and getting elected based on being Republicans and Democrats, and a lot of people vote on national issues. So that's just hard to serve that way when that's not how you run and not how you get elected. So I think it's really important to run as an independent, get elected that way so that you can serve that way. I am a farmer from Lovettsville, and the Board of Supervisors has been doing a lot of things that are bad for farms. Both parties are doing it, so I kind of came to see that the parties were just fighting all the time about party stuff, which is bad because it hits neighbors against neighbors. But the worst part is that while there's all this fighting, they're kind of working together to do things over here, which was bad for the farming. So that's how I came to see, neither party is going to do what's right for farmers. I'm sure you guys aren't concerned that much about farm issues, but whatever your issues are, it's probably the same core problem. And I would be happy to hear about it and figure out what those issues are, and it probably ties into that. But if not, I'm still interested in figuring out how to solve it in any way I can. So thanks a lot, and I look forward to seeing you at future sessions and being on the panel at one of the future ones. And I won't be on the panel tonight, but I'll be around, so hope to talk to you. Thank you. Sure. Okay.
Okay, our next order of business is going to be questions that we have gathered from the audience, and also some questions that were developed for a forum that was held during the primary season. So I'm going to start with that. And I think we need to shorten it from 3 minutes to 1. So be thinking when I announce the questions about how you want to respond. Okay, number 1. How will you begin to heal the deep divisions within the Loudoun community and bring us back together? So we're going to start on the right this time and go to the left.
Okay, well, I'll just make it short because I've kind of already addressed that. So electing independent people is really important. And just with the time that I have, the way that I think is best to do that is to adopt ranked choice voting. Back in 2020, the General Assembly and Governor, they passed a law that allowed ranked choice voting for boards of supervisors and city councils, which we don't have any city councils in Loudoun. So the only group that can have ranked choice voting is Board of Supervisors. I was hoping they would do that, but it's getting so close to election time, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. But I would do that, and would also hope to get it for school board and all the other offices where it's not available now, and I would try to make that happen. And all these candidates are really great, but the only thing that would be better would be to have even more and to have ranked choice voting to choose between them. Thank you.
From my perspective, a lot of the divisions that occur within our county, at least for the agency I'm running for, sheriff, is a lack of trust in some of our operations and things that we do. And part of that is going to be through transparency and accountability, getting more collaboration from the community. I want the community in there with me all the time, just so that they have an input. If people are, I'll put it this way. In law enforcement, we sit around a table. I'm a professional, we have other professionals there. We create policies that are in our best interest, and we understand what we want to get to. The problem is what we do, a lot of times don't take into consideration is how it impacts the community we actually serve. And that's why a lot of times we miss that mark. And in this county, we have a very diverse county. 1 in 4 of our residents are non-US born. And so having a diverse group in an advisory council that is made up of folks that are sent to us from the Board of Supervisors as well as other community leaders, I think will do a lot to take care of the divisions that we have. It'll create unity.
All right. One of the tasks that I have often had in my day job is convincing people with wildly divergent viewpoints to come to some sort of compromise to be able to make a decision to move forward in the common good. And what I have found helpful in those situations is two things. One, to try and find some piece of common ground, even if it's very small or a 30,000-foot view of something. So for school board, I would like the beginning of that to be, we're all focused on the best interests of the students of our county. And if we all agree that that is what we're trying to do, then maybe we could work backwards from there. And then the second part of that is to remember to respect each other. That every single person in this community is entitled to have an opinion about what is happening in our public schools. And that what is happening in our public schools affects the entire community. And if we remember that and respect each other, I think that's a good place to start.
I'll just say we need to go back to start talking to each other. Start talking to your neighbors. Just as Ann said here, find the common ground and listen to one another. Like sometimes I get calls about issues, oh, my neighbor has too many cars or this thing or that thing. Well, did you talk to them and find out why they might have so many cars? No. Well, why don't you do that and see what they tell you? Sure enough, they have that conversation and they come back and say, you know what, they have their son, their daughter, son-in-law, and the baby staying at the house. Actually, I had the exact same situation. Well, there you go. Now you understand what their plight is. So it's about talking to your neighbors, getting back to know one another, and it's the old saying that we've learned many years ago, is get back to the golden rule. Treat others as you want somebody to treat you and your loved ones, and have respect for one another. Also, it's listening and finding common ground. I'll give you an example. Our first board term, it was 3-6. I didn't lose a vote anytime I brought something up, a BMI. If you call Suzanne Volpe, Ron Meyer, Matt Letourneau, Tony Buffington, Ralph Bowen, they'll tell you why, because I listened and we found common ground. That's what we need to do, is find common ground and listen to one another again. Thank you.
As a council attorney, I think the way that we help to be able to bring Loudoun back together is really by establishing the following. One is by establishing and reintegrating and building the trust within the community by having transparency, and then the results. Since 2019, safety is up and violent crime is down 31% in Loudoun County. It's results. That makes every one of us here realize that we are all part of the solution. So I'm going to take advantage of the fact that for once as a lawyer, I'm giving you a short answer, which is a full answer. But I'm going to say thank you to the League of Women Voters. I want to say thank you to the NAACP, and I do want to say thank you to our sisters at Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated for making this happen as well as the
Thank you. So my life is already lived with people from all sides on a daily basis. Believe it or not, I'm a country western DJ and I teach line dancing. Okay, so I'm Western Loudoun all the time. I have friends, and you know, lots of people on the other side of Loudoun County are more conservative in their opinions. So I'm part of the conversation. I'm in the dinners. I'm in the Christmas, dinners. I'm there. So I think my opponent didn't realize that the task of leadership is not to read out the list of things that need to be done in the office, how to go beyond that. When you work in an office for 11 years, you don't understand that you have to go beyond it. That doesn't tell you the list. And what I think is community, keeping our kids over here, finding jobs is important. Our economic development is not good because our budget is like $5 million But DC spends full $42 million in their economic development. Prince George's County spends $10 million. That's where you need to be, not in the meetings with organizations and ribbon cuttings. You have to bring the resources and you got to fight for them. And I'm going to fight for the resources that you need.
If you would announce your name so that people can associate what you say with your name.
Sure. I'm April Chandler, and I think I'm lucky because I get to start from a great place in terms of healing division, because we all care so much about our students. That's something that we all agree on. And one of the things I can promise is that I have experience bringing lots of different people together and getting them to work on projects that serve our students. And I will listen and engage, but I think if we really focus on what matters, and that's providing an excellent public education for our students, we'll find a way to heal.
I'm Viktoria Hunyadi. I am not a politician, so I started and I wanted to be on the school board, and I chose to be a candidate because I'm a concerned mom and a concerned former substitute teacher. When I was door knocking many times after I introduced myself that I'm Viktoria running for the school board to represent the Algonquian district, sadly, many times I got the question, are you a Democrat or a Republican? And this was really sad to hear that when we're talking about our schools, our children, the future of our country, it really comes down to so politically divided. So I think I really like when I hear many of us saying that we are in the best interest of all our children, including everyone. I think that is what's gonna bring back us together and fight for our kids, what is really our legacy that we leave behind. Thank you.
Debbie Rose. I think we take down the division in this county by treating everyone respectfully. We communicate our concern for our fellow citizens when we solve their problems, and that's by focusing on the local issues, and that's done through solving the problem of cell service. That's done through solving the problem of speeding. That's done through solving the problem of safe communities. So we show people we care, and we take down the division in this community by showing people respect and compassion by solving the problems. And I intend to do that as a Board of Supervisor, to focus on the local issues and solve those problems respectfully and with the collaboration of everyone.
Chris Harnisch. Look, the political polarization and political extremism that's tearing apart our community and our country is precisely the reason I decided to get into this race. I'm the son of a Democrat mother and a Republican father, and I grew up in a very loving family, and it was normal to have normal, empathetic, civil conversations at the dinner table. When I served in the Army, we worked to achieve the mission regardless of what the person to your left or right, regardless of whether or not they were liberal or conservative or were from a rural background or urban background. We all worked together, we respected each other, and we knew what the mission was and worked together to achieve the mission. 3 concrete things I'll do to help heal us as a community, as a state. Well, number 1, very simply, I will serve with honor and integrity and transparency at all times. Number 2, I will introduce bipartisan legislation. I was very heartened to hear that Supervisor Koran Saines' priorities when he spoke, they align very much with my priorities, and we might not be on the same side of the political aisle. And then number 3, I will introduce digital literacy into our public school curriculum, because I think it's important that kids learn how to identify misinformation and disinformation online that's driving so much of the political polarization and extremism in the country. Thank you.
Okay, the next question. Do you promise to campaign only on the issues and not go negative? And are all sides represented when you share information? Okay.
I'm glad I got the easy question I have to go first here. Yes, wholeheartedly, unequivocally. Yeah.
Yes, I promise to not take personal attacks against my opponent. I will engage in healthy and rigorous debate on the issues and areas where we differ on policies and our experience and our positions, but we will not be personally offensive.
I just want to echo the other candidates that I actually know Miss Chandler. Our daughters go to the same schools. We actually substitute taught together, and I have great respect for her as a mother. Anyone who is a mother, it's a tough job. I think it's the hardest job in the world. So I really respect her for that, and we might disagree on different viewpoints. So it's up to you to decide who you prefer to vote for. But again, I have total respect for her. When we met.
Right. Again, we're so lucky. One of the things that I have made the habit of saying is Victoria is so kind. And that's been my experience with her since our kids were together, probably in 1st or 2nd grade. And I've had the privilege of also subbing for your son.
Yeah.
So to be respectful in that case, Victoria is a person to me, and I promise to keep that in mind as we go down this path. As you said, our viewpoints might be different, but our goals are the same, and I think we can work together.
So hi, I'm Amudhanar, Candidate Commissioner of Revenue this time. As you noticed, when I got up there to speak, I really talked about the issues that I want to bring forward. I want to make a change from how things are before, and my campaign is not going to be based on personal issues. I'm not going to be going negative. I respect a person who has done the job for so many years. I just want to do it different and better, and that's what I ask you to consider when you go to the voting booth and vote for me. Thank you.
I'm Buta Biberaj, and I'm running for Commerce Attorney, and this is my re-election. My commitment is always to do the following, that is to be respectful and positive to the work that we are committed to doing. And that is always by producing something that is transparent to our community. It focuses on the issues and always with a solution-based outcome. That makes it real easy for me to be able to make that commitment, because that's what we've done for the last 3.5 years, is focus on what needs to be fixed and come to the table with the solutions.
Koran Saines, running for the Sterling District and the Board of Supervisors. Yes, it's always about talking about the issues, never going personal. I look at my first race back in a long time ago, it seems like now, 2015. My opponent back then was office for 16 years. We're probably the most different people you could probably imagine running against each other. And I'll just say I was not happy with a lot of stuff that he's done in those 16 years in office. But I never once made it personal, talked about the facts, talked about the issues, what he did or didn't do for Sterling and his votes. And that was it, and I'll always continue to do that, and encourage everybody to do the same when you're talking about your opponent, is talk about the facts, the issues, never go personal, and definitely leave opponents' families alone.
I'm Ann Donahue, running for Loudoun County School Board for the at-large seat, and yes, I absolutely commit to running a campaign that is focused on the issues and refraining from personal attacks on my opponent or his family. I actually have not had the pleasure yet of meeting Mr. Rivera in person, although we have exchanged emails. Certainly I've seen him before. I was looking forward to meeting him tonight, but that will have to wait for another opportunity. But he's a parent, I'm a parent, we're both members of this community, and that's how I plan to treat him and how I expect he will treat me as well. With the respect that is due to members of the community who are standing up to do a challenging job, not for my benefit, not for his benefit, for the best interest of the students of our county. And yes, I also pledge to always hear different opinions and consider them, even if I don't end up agreeing with them. It's important, I'm an attorney, it's important to gather all the facts, all the possibilities before you make a decision. Thank you.
I'm Craig Buckley, the candidate for sheriff, and yes, no personal attacks at all. That's not who I am or what I'm about. I think we're very much the same. My opponent, he's a husband and a father and a Christian just like me, and so I'm not going to say anything bad about him in any way. And I would hope that would be reciprocated. I'm going to stick with the issues as far as covering both sides of the things is, well, I mean, I'm running as a Democrat, but I'm a constitutional officer and I'm running as sheriff. Really, my political party is the Code of Virginia, is what it is, and the Constitution of the United States. So that's my political party. So that's why both sides of the issues will always be addressed with me. Because if I don't, I cannot risk alienating any portions of our county. Everyone here has value and everyone here has the same rights. I will protect them.
Thanks for the question. Yeah, I can definitely promise no personal attacks. I have a lot of respect and even affection for both of my competitors, Chair Randall and my Republican opponent. They've both been out to the farm to visit. I like them both a lot personally. Now I will, nobody's above criticism, so I will be criticizing them a lot. Especially like I think campaign donation. I'm really big on campaign donations and having clean campaign donations. So I'll definitely be pointing out, some troublesome places that are getting campaign donations like that. I promise to never travel to Ghana or any other countries. I think our economic development professionals should be going there maybe, but they're the pros and they can handle that. I don't think I need to go there. But like that, it's like these are the facts, and I try to always be, I definitely am always honest and fair. So I hope it's fair at least.
Okay, for those running for an office in the Justice Department, the question is, do you support red flag laws for those charged with domestic violence? And also if you're running for the state, would you be prepared to answer that question? Okay.
So I'm Craig Buckley again, I'm running for sheriff. And red flag laws, yes, I do support them. In fact, they're extremely important. Probably the largest reason why they're not used or employed much in our community is simply from a lack of educating the public on the purpose of them and how they're used. I do have experience with that. In fact, when the law first came out, a lot of times they put out new laws and they don't give you funding for it, but there was actually grant money that was extended by the Department of Criminal Justice Services to provide training to communities and to law enforcement. Some departments, some agents, law enforcement agencies took advantage of that money and some did not. I've actually had to have conversations with folks when one of those has been issued. The biggest part of it is, I usually start that conversation out by saying, someone got this for you because they care about you. Because a lot of times that's what it's about. So many times it's less about violence and care about somebody because they're in a mental health crisis as well. You have people that have been married and it's a domestic issue. They got married because they loved each other. At some point, something happened there. A lot of times it comes down to stresses or it comes down to the change in a person's mental health status. And I don't think we should discount that. They're very important. Same thing I've explained to folks when I've been at their door with one of those is that this is here to help you, to hopefully save you. It doesn't take away your Second Amendment right. If anything, it helps to restore it. When we have these things, this is what, because every time I own guns, I know a lot of friends that own guns have been in law enforcement, right? So it's just what we do. I love guns. We don't shoot in the range with my kids and stuff too. So it's what we do. But when you have a tool there that can help save someone who is a responsible gun owner, but because of some change in their life, something has had calamity has happened, we want to save that person. And this is a tool that we can save them, not only them, but also the community, and restore trust in them and save people.
Even bigger, I Biberaj, running for re-election as Commonwealth's attorney. I want to thank Craig for his answer because he saved me the 3 minutes I would have gotten in trouble for trying to answer it. So thank you. The importance of supporting red flag laws is really bottom line, is what Craig said. It saves lives. Please do not get caught up in the conversation this is about taking away people's gun rights. No. Right? The worst thing that can happen to a family is when guns have been used to do the ultimate, which is to kill somebody. Then nobody's arguing about should there have been a gun in the house, should there not been a gun in the house. So let's not get caught in that false narrative of one or the other. It has nothing to do with that. It's a matter of identifying that there's a time and place for everything, and there's a time and place where somebody should not have access to guns. And when mental health is an issue, that has to be the conversation. And that does come from within the family and friends who identify that and use the law enforcement process. So all day long, I support the red flag laws. All day long, it's not just for domestic violence, but in any situation where somebody is mentally in a state that they should not have access to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Harnisch, running for the House of Delegates. Look, I think it's imperative that we take steps to mitigate the likelihood of mass shootings, especially at schools. No parent should ever have to drop off their child at school and be concerned that that child might not come back that evening. That's a terrifying thought, and we need to take steps that will mitigate that threat, that likelihood. I'm in favor of deploying smart monitoring technologies that use artificial intelligence and machine learning to quickly identify if there's a weapon on school campus. It's been proven, it works, and it would notify law enforcement officers right away. I'm open to the idea of putting in place a system that makes sure that the criminals and those that have a history of violence, or threatened violence, that they cannot access weapons. I think that's important for keeping our schools safe and keeping our communities safe. We'd have to look at what's the specific language of the red flag law. I think it's also important that we protect one's Second Amendment right. So you get into I think a really sensitive area there. We want to make sure that somebody's not misidentified by a red flag law and that their Second Amendment rights taken away. So that's why I'm being specific on my wording here, that if somebody has a criminal record, and if there's a proven history of violence, or if they've made threats of violence, then those people should not have weapons.
Okay, stay standing. We have another question regarding laws and public safety. Do you believe that marijuana laws have had a disproportionate impact on communities of color? And how would you address that in the role that you are trying out for?
I think that's a question. We'd have to look at the data to see if marijuana laws have had an impact.
Data's out there. The data's there.
Okay. I haven't seen. Yeah, no, please. Like, if I don't know. I'm being transparent. I don't know if marijuana laws have had an impact, a greater impact on people of color or not. I do think that I do think that if we go down the path of the legalization of marijuana, my one concern here is I want to make sure that if claims are being made about marijuana and its medicinal purposes, that those purposes are well studied, that FDA is involved in going through the process of actually identifying whether or not marijuana has the medicinal properties well, it needs to go through the FDA process, right? If people are going to start making claims about the medicinal properties of marijuana, that's all I'd want to say on the issue of medicinal marijuana there.
Thank you. For the essence of time, I would like for you not to scream out or yell out questions. Questions can be put on a card, but we want to be respectful for all the candidates, please. No yelling out. Thank you.
Buta Biberaj, Commonwealth's attorney, now and in the future. All right, so we gotta really talk about that, and I appreciate if someone doesn't know that, but in the space that I'm in, the data exists. I was an attorney for 30 years. I was a substitute judge for 11 years, and I saw the impact that it had in our communities, especially those who were black and brown skinned. We saw the application because that was how the laws were applied, and they are disproportionate. And what ends up happening is those are the crimes that were bringing people into the system and keeping them in the system and putting them in cages. That was the problem with having the issue with marijuana laws the way that they were. It is a godsend that they got changed because now we're dealing with it differently and more appropriately. But let's not lose sight of the fact that it's not just marijuana laws. There's a lot of laws that are intended to impact communities of color more so than any other. So that's a continuing justice reform that we have to have, and as your Commerce attorney, I'll continue to fight for that.
So the perspective I have of this from my career is it's almost less of a community of color issue as it is a rich versus poor issue so much of the time. And so yes, it does occur where a lot of times you would issue a summons to someone for a possession charge, and time and time again they would get a 251. Ms. Biberaj can probably agree with me with that. And this is our language. So it's essentially it's a first-time offender. It's dismissed, and it doesn't affect the record anymore. And but sometimes if you don't process those folks after court for whatever reason, with the press be signed, they get a 251 over and over again. Whereas someone who's not represented by an attorney gets the 251 shot one time, and so it negatively impacts them because we try to be a forgiving place. We want to give people a second and third chance sometimes, especially when it's just a very small little crime like this. So, thank you.
I just personally wanted to ask a question regarding the enormous amount of domestic violence that is occurring in the richest county in the United States. It really troubles me, and a lot of it has to do with not having resources for legal advice, not having attorneys available, and having to go before the court, taking time off work, and go before the court to beg for protective orders that expire almost the moment it's issued. It expires, so they're in the back way again and again and again. Is there anything we can do as a community to make sure our women and children are safe?
I would like to have more than 1 minute.
I'll let you go first because she was looking at.
Thank you. Buta Biberaj, Loudoun County Council Attorney, and yes, the biggest thing that we have to understand as a community is domestic violence is not race-based, it's not socioeconomic, it's not education, it is across it. Anyone in this room could be an aggressor, anyone in this room could be a victim. The challenge that we have is on a daily basis, and I'm going to use the traditional gender roles here, then on a regular daily basis, we force women to choose daily survival decisions. Where am I going to live? Where are my 2.3 kids going to live? Where are we going to be able to have food? How is it going to be able to have a head on a pillow in lieu of their long-term safety, right? Do I go back to that situation? Because I have no other choices. That's a societal problem. In Virginia, in Loudoun County, across the nation, 80% of domestic violence cases are dismissed or no process. Dismissed could be because the judge hears the case and the facts are not event, or no process means that they're not prosecuted to a trial because the victim may come back and say it didn't happen. The victim may come back and say, I know I said this, but I can't. The victim may not show up. In Loudoun County, this is the problem I have as a prosecutor. Everybody's got a daggone lawyer when it's a case against somebody who's got money and who's charged with domestic violence, because then the husband's got a lawyer, the wife has a lawyer. If there's a kid that's a witness, the kid has a lawyer. We can never carry through that hurdle of how do we do it in court, because this is the problem I'm saying to you now. This is not disrespectful to any part of the process. The criminal justice system, law enforcement, the prosecutor's office are at the tail end of it. If this was a case of cancer, We're the people who at the very end are saying, oh, I'm sorry, but here's some pain medicine for all of the stuff you're dealing with, because we're not addressing it on the front end. When we start addressing it on the front end as community members, and you see your sister, or you see your mom, or you see your coworker who's got that issue, you gotta find a way to intervene. And that doesn't mean you go beat up somebody, so please don't think of that. But it basically is to be able to acknowledge this and say, how can I help? Because you're right, they need to get counsel to say, how do I get out of the situation? Where's the money? You know, most people don't know where the money in the house is or where it comes from, anything of that nature. So that's the disadvantage we have with the domestic violence situation. The whole system sucks. I'm sorry, I can't say that in church. The whole system doesn't work. Right? The system doesn't work because we're trying to think that the solution is in the courts. It is not. The harm has already been committed. You've lost trust in the family, you've lost trust in one another, and the kids are seeing that and don't know how to get out of it. So what we do as a system, we have CPS, Child Protective Services, that responds when there's been a case of domestic violence in the home where kids are involved. So we try to address it there. We address it with law enforcement. Virginia changed the law, I don't know how many years ago, but if there's an aggressor that's been identified in a relationship, that person gets arrested. Then it comes before the courts, and we try to do that. We've increased the victim witness case manager in our office from 4 to 7 to try to have that continuing contact, to give them the resources, to the direction. It still is not changing a lot because we cannot fix the socioeconomic aspect of it, where do people go. They can go to a shelter. I'm not living in a shelter but a week or 2 weeks because I still have to go somewhere. Right, so to answer your question, I have an imperfect answer, which is how do we solve it? It's every one of us. We have got to be part of the solution because it is not going to be the sheriff, it's not going to be the prosecutor, it's not the judge. That's too late in the whole process. We got to figure out is how do we step in on the front end. So I'm sorry I don't have a clear answer for you. If I can just say this is, please just keep your eyes open. And what you see, be able to provide that assistance and be able to share that experience with somebody, because that's the only way we take the shame away from it, and maybe more people can report it.
So, I'm Buckley, candidate for sheriff again, and yes, just so it's an entire process. And so in this county, as affluent as we are, the bulk of our violent crime is related to domestics, and the bulk of our firearms violent crime is related to domestics as well. So it's the legislature is giving us some tools. The red flag laws were first, the mandatory arrest was the first one really, and then we have that. In this county, we have, there's a model that we can use that's been given to us, which is called the domestic assault response team. And we actually have that through Laws. Laws is a fantastic organization. We need to make sure that that place is fully funded because they are our safety net as a sheriff's office. Most people don't realize that, but that's also where our child advocacy center is. Because when we make that arrest, there's so much more that needs to go there because we're going to keep going to homes. You have children who are exposed to violence in the home. It just creates a huge cycle. That needs to be ended. So we have to take on this role, use our DART, our domestic assault response team, to follow up because that's the purpose of them. You have this graduated scale where you start off, okay? So the assault happens, we start working on that. The arrest has been made. DART helps with the victim to get the resources they need. The children need resources at Laws, whatever, to move through that. But then there's follow-up with the aggressor where you make face-to-face contact with them as it goes on because eventually they're all back in the house together. And doing periodic check-ins at 1 week, at 2 weeks, at 4 weeks, until they get through because usually there's a period of counseling as well, that's court mandated as well, and you want to make sure they follow through with that. But it's all about setting it up just so the family unit has its best options and the best opportunity to stay together, because that's really what we want to do, is have strong families.
It's also important that we keep folks who have been arrested for violent domestic abuse situations in jail and not let them out to then go kill women in our communities, as it has happened recently. So as a Board of Supervisor member, I will make sure that I use the oversight that responsibility of the Commonwealth Attorney's Office to make sure that those that when violent offenders are arrested, that they stay in jail the appropriate amount of time and aren't let out. district.
So I would like to say a few words on that if you guys don't mind. So community values, moral values are from faith-based institutions and all the different places that we get these, these strengths to us, to our, into our lives. But really, it should also be there in your streets, across your homes, when you don't know somebody who's living across the street in your townhouse or on the other door. That's what happens. You don't know anything. Like Vera said, we need to know what's going on in your community. We have to be friends. And all this comes when you are a community. And for that, it takes generations. And the generations don't happen when you educate your kids to get a job and they're gone, and then your parents leave because it's no longer affordable to live here, and then you build again all over from the basics with nothing, with fresh people. We in Loudoun County are like, a transit stop for families. We come here, we educate our kids, and we are gone, and then you start again with a new set of people. It only happens if you have enough money, career opportunities for kids to come back and live here with their parents, with their grandparents, and then you build families with people that may not be related to you by blood, but they are local. And this is the way it used to be in the old days. It's no longer that way. We've just become Dallas Airport. It's a lounge where people come, educate the kids, and they're gone. And we need to stop that. Money is the answer.
I'll just quickly say that we need more resources. The Commonwealth needs to do more in funding for mental health services. We need to fund our public defender's office more. The Commonwealth does the majority of the funding for that. Yes, the Board of Supervisors allocates some funding to the public defender's office as well, but those are technically state employees, but counties are picking up the tab lots of times for those state employees such as public defenders. Also, we need to remove the stigma on mental health. If you need help, seek it. Talk to somebody. We need to shore up our red flag laws, our Marcus Alert laws as well. Mr. Buckley talked about having resources go not just with the police or the sheriff's department when they answer a call, but have mental health professionals with them. We need to up that ante and have more folks employed to do those type of services. And how we're going to do that? Again, by having funding from the Commonwealth, but we have a governor who wants to do, we currently have a surplus, but the surplus, he wants to give the tax breaks to the corporations. No, we need to give more funding to the coffers and the services here in the Commonwealth to help others. And also, I'd just like to correct the record for a comment that was just made. The Board of Supervisors, we don't have any oversight whatsoever for our constitutionally elected officials when it comes to the sheriff, the Commonwealth Attorney, and the Treasurer's Office. We provide funding for their manpower and their equipment. That's it. We do not dictate how they prosecute or how they charge individuals. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Koran. Koran might be annoyed at me here because I'm going to agree with you again. I know you're on the opposite side of the aisle, but once again, I think what Koran just mentioned is so important from the perspective of investing, the state investing in mental and emotional health resources for victims and also for our children. We need to make sure that we're investing in mental and emotional health resources for our children and that our schools have plenty of counselors to support our kids. Also want to make sure that we are investing in community health resources that, as Mr. Saines said, can go along with law enforcement when law enforcement might not necessarily be the right answer in response to an emergency call. We need to make sure we have community health resources available as well throughout the state. Thanks.
Okay, that about wraps it up. I once again want to thank all the candidates for running. We really need your leadership badly, as has been evident tonight with the questions that were asked and the questions were answered. We still have a long way to go in this county to ensure public safety and excellent public school education. So I encourage you to stay involved, find your favorite candidate, agree to write postcards, make phone calls, go door to door, whatever it is that you can do to help these worthy people get elected. So I think we have refreshments in the back if you want to hang out and chat. And also the candidates have information available at these round tables along the side of the room. And I think we have to be out by 9. Yeah, we have to be out. Chairs put away by 9. So, okay. The chairs need to go in that back closet.
Thank you all for coming out. I want to thank Dr. Theta, the League of Women Voters, and of course, the wonderful NAACP Loudoun branch on September 21st at Dulles South. It's going to be at the Senior Center. Come out, meet your candidates. Make sure you answer all your questions. Put them on a card. We'll make sure that they get these questions and answer them honestly. But thank you again for coming out. Thank you.